On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, let's go through the win totals for every Western Conference team. Who is underrated? Who are legitimate threats to OKC?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder and SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the win totals for the Western Conference. Who is underrated? Who's a little bit overrated? Who are the real big threats to Oklahoma City? With Brandon Rahbar, DailyThunder.com, 1077 The Franchise, and Media Luminary. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for half off of your first year. Brandon, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. You can tell that it's the off season, like truly now. Summer league's over. Everything, the draft is over. Like, look at me. Like, I didn't even do my hair for this show. Like I'm in off season mode already, and I apologize.
No, it's okay. Look, off season Brandon is a great place to be. Now, do you kill it in the season? Yes, but off season, there's no idea what we're going to talk about or what we're going to get into today. We come in with a plan, and then sometimes in the summertime, it's like a lazy river. We just see where the show takes us, and we live with it because there's a billion more shows to do between now and the season. And if you're listening to the show, you happen to like the show because no one else right now would be listening to a Thunder podcast in late July. Brandon, speaking of the Thunder, the only thing really to talk about is next season. Everything from this season has really come and gone. The summer league session ended in the Final Four for OKC, where their B team of their summer league team was trounced by the eventual champion Charlotte Hornets. And now you look forward to next season where FanDuel, which is going to give you all of these over-unders for this show, of course, a sponsor of this show, FanDuel, is setting the line for the Thunder at 62.5 games. The over is at minus 102. The under is at minus 130. Where do you lean on 62.5 wins for Oklahoma City?
So when you told me what we were doing today, I actually went through and I did not look at the FanDuel over-under purposely because I didn't want it to influence me. So I predicted wins and losses for every single team. And this is so funny. I swear I did not cheat, Rylan. I have the Thunder at 63. So I had them at the over by half a game. I think they will be, they won 68 games last year. And it is really, really hard to do that twice in a row. I think this team is going to be just as good, if not better than last year. There's going to be, improvement internally from young guys, Chet and Dub, especially Case and Wallace. You're adding Sorber, Topic to the mix, AJ Mitchell to the mix, but the West is getting better. The Thunder had some bad injury luck last year, but you never know injury bugs and who might miss some time. Will they put their foot on the gas 100 miles an hour every single game like they did last year? This Thunder team, you kind of think that they will, but they don't have to do that this year. I don't know. 63 just felt like a good elite number. And so it's really funny that I'm coming in half a game over.
Brandon, I think that if you're looking at this line and you're looking at this as a better, you would have to take the over just as 0-0 insurance, but it's a line that you would stay away from, I think, because of how lofty that it is. I mean, look, if the Thunder continue this 0-0 mantra and they keep trying to win at all costs and being zeroed in on every single game and going 100 miles an hour, like you said, then they're going to win 60-plus games. They're going to win 65-plus games if they continue to do that. And then the conventional wisdom tells you, well, they just won a championship. They just played into deep June. Their offseason for them is just now beginning, like the rest of us. They haven't even really had time to catch up after that long season. And yet, last year, whenever they had their version of taking their foot off the gas, they played a very spunky Portland team who was playing some great basketball, and Jay Will drops a triple-double and beats them, and it's just no big deal. Last year, they couldn't possibly have any worse injury luck. So last year, they weren't massaging minutes. It was just, hey, these guys all got hurt. Like you start this season with no Kenrich, no Ihart, no J Will. Chet breaks his hip. Yes, you did, finagle around Caruso's minutes. That was kind of the only guy who probably could have played whenever he was on the injury report at times, as he mentioned at the NBA Finals. But even so, you won 68 games through all of that, because as long as you have Shea and as long as you have J-Dub, you're going to win these games. And even whenever you have your kind of B team in there, Aaron Wiggins, Jay Whale, they're enough to win basketball games, even in this tough Western Conference. And that's where I would say over, because of those facts of just, okay, well, when they do play this kind of games, you'd imagine that at a minimum, if you believe that the Thunder are going to go all in on this whole, massaging minutes and taking care of their guys in preparation of the playoffs, they're at least going to play their guys 65 games, because they're going to have to play them to get them eligible for awards. And then from there, how many games do you think that the bench can steal? It leads you to want to protect yourself and hit the over if you have to take this line.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's the thing. This Thunder team is so deep now. If you're playing your bench, you're playing some really good players still. Like, look at the possible third string. You might be looking at like Nikola Topic, who is a guy who's projected to go in the top 5. Yes, he's going to be a rookie. Yes, there'll be growing pains, but there's talent there. You're talking about possible guys like Jay Will or Sorber. You're talking about guys like AJ Mitchell, possibly Kenrich Williams. Like, these guys can play, and you got to play at least more than that. So you're probably playing Kaysen. You're probably playing, maybe Caruso some minutes.
Little Brooks Barnheiser.
Brooks Barnheiser. Yes. Like, guys that can play.
If you just take the Thunder's third string, you have a very fun tanking team who's capable of beating a couple of good teams throughout the course of a season.
That's exactly right. This team is incredibly talented. Even if they do take some back-to-backs off or whatever we see happen this season, this is still a good, deep team. Truly, like 1 through 15 are NBA rotation guys. Like, I guess the number 15 guy you'd say would be Ousmane Dieng. But I think that we've seen flashes from Dieng where he can play some defense and get some rebounds and he can get hot any given night. I think he's an NBA rotation guy. And then again, two-way guys like Brooks Barnheiser, who looks like he can play, Brandon Carlson, who we know can play. Like, these are the guys that will be getting minutes if there are nights where, the top guys rest. So this Thunder team is deep. They are competitive. And I don't think that winning an NBA championship is going to make them any less competitive. This team is still going to try to go out and get wins. They're going to try to go out and get the number 1 seed. They're going to try to win a back-to-back title this season. So I don't think they'll lose any sort of edge. They may massage minutes, but this is still a 68 team win coming back that right now is healthier than it was last season and is adding talents and is adding internal development.
And I agree with you. I think that it will be a situation where you don't think that they're going to win 68 plus games again. Even though they did that, again, while only being healthy 8.5% of the time, as Sam Presti will so proudly tell you. That's great. And that shows the depth, and that shows how this team really battled through adversity a year ago. But there is a level of now you're being hunted. There is a level of like, hey, you blew out a lot of teams last year. And the natural course of action would be to bet against you having the best point differential in the NBA again, to where now you're playing closer games, and closer games in and of themselves can kind of swing one way or the other. And then even in those comeback games and those close games, you were still good. So I think that they are going to come down a little bit from their win total, but they're going to come down to like the 65 range, I think, and still hit the over on this over-under. The Thunder are in a great spot, and I think it still makes them the number 1 seed out west, Brandon.
Yeah, I think it does too. Look, there's a reason why this team was historic last year. Those years don't happen very often. Like, even the greatest teams, the 90s Bulls, like there was a 90s Bulls team that was better than the rest of the seasons. There was a Warriors team that was better than the rest of like, you can pinpoint in those dynasties. And I'm not saying this Thunder team is going to become a dynasty, but the possibility is certainly there. Like, and it's certainly possible for them to be even better and for this season not to be the best season. Completely possible. But 68 wins is a lot. It was historic. Point differential, best of all time. It's hard to do that. Again, plus, as we get into these other teams, going into the every single West team except for one, the Utah Jazz, I think is planning on winning this season. Like, you can even look at the Pelicans, the Suns for some reason, the
Pelicans
Blazers
better be playing to win because they give away their freaking draft picks.
Oh, dude, seriously. Unreal. Unbelievable. These teams are going to try to win. The Blazers are going to try to win this year. Like, they're at least going into the season, starting the season, and all these teams are talented. Like, so the West is going to get better and more competitive. Like you said, the Thunder are going to be hunted. It's hard to be historic 2 times in a row. But at the end of the day, this team has the MVP. They have 2 potential All-Stars. Well, one has already been an All-Star, another potential All-Star, and Dub and Chet. Incredible depth, talent up and down the board. So this is, a possible 60 to 70 win team. Absolutely. But, there's so many other factors that go into it. It feels like 63, when I went through it all, felt like a good landing point for me.
Yeah, and I think that even when you go through it, you also have to talk about what you know about the team. And so, like, what we know about the team is, I think a lot of them have that Caruso-ism about them, where Caruso talked about in the finals how the Thunder had to save him from himself, of just, they knew, hey, if we put you on the floor, you're going to go a billion miles an hour, and that's not going to be conducive to keeping you healthy for whenever we actually need you in April to June. I think that a lot of these players and a lot of the top players on this roster have that same thing, that if you have Shea on the court and J-Dub on the court and Chet on the court and iHeart on the court, etc., they're going to be giving you all that they have on both ends, and that's very taxing. And so you have to save them from themselves at times. And we also know that this Thunder team doesn't let the external stuff impact what they're doing internally. You go back and look at whenever that race was heated between the Cavs and the Thunder, that never weighed into their decision of like, oh, can we still rest Caruso? Can we get an opportunity for J-Dub or Chet or SGA or whoever to take a break in this game? They never cared about that. Like we mentioned, what they cared about was, hey, that Portland game, it's the second stringers and below taking care of Portland because we want our guys healthy for this upcoming matchup against Denver, in these back-to-back games. Like, they strategically did stuff internally and ignored what was going on externally. So even if you believe that this team is like 70-plus wins good, and maybe the talent on the roster suggests that they are, I don't think that they're going to put winning 70-plus games ahead of their end goal, which is to be healthy and to be fresh come playoff time, because you expect to play to June again. You expect to play to mid-June once again this season, and you've got to value that over any regular season win total, which is why I think that they'll still be great. They'll still win 65 games, which is a great season. They'll still be the best team in the West, but it won't be some historically great win total from OKC. Coming up, let's talk about the rest of the West. Who's contenders? Who's pretenders out West? But first, let's see right now about our good friends over at Monarch Money, folks. Monarch Money is amazing. If you've ever wished that your money felt easier to manage, well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings, planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're building your wealth. So make sure that you check it out today, because if you have a financial goal that you've been trying to get to and be serious about, well, Monarch Money makes it so easy and convenient to manage this all on one app. And I love that. I even love their ability to look at how much you're spending on subscriptions and what those subscriptions are, because we've all been there. We sign up for a free trial, forget to cancel, and all of a sudden you forget you even had the subscription, and Monarch Money can flag those for you as well. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off of your first year. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here to talk with Brandon Rahbar, 1077 The Franchise, dailythunder.com. I'm your host, Rylan Stiles. For your next listen, go check out Locked On Mavs, because as we start to break down the over-unders out west, we start in alphabetical order with the Dallas Mavericks, who have a win total from FanDuel at 40.5. And I think that this is one of the more interesting lines, because Dallas last year, Brandon, you couldn't dream up more drama than they went through. From the injuries that they dealt with from the start of the year to the end of the year with Kyrie Irving, to trading Luka Doncic and the distraction that was, to playing home games that felt like road games because the entire AAC is chanting Fire Nico. You could not have dreamt of a worst season for Dallas, and yet they won 39 games and they made the play-in tournament and they got Cooper Flag in the draft. They were a 39-win team a year ago with all of that adversity, and just by simply staying put, if they make no more moves, they do no more dumb trades with Nico Harrison, they just have this roster and let it ride and then bring in Kyrie whenever he's healthy, I think that they're going to hit the over on 40 wins. I'm not going to sell you on them being some incredible team, but 41 wins would be what I need to get the winner on the over. I'll book in the Mavericks for having 41 wins.
Yeah, I have them at 44 wins when I was going through and making my picks. Look, like you said, they have Anthony Davis, they have Cooper Flag, they have, everybody knows in Oklahoma City about PJ Washington, they have Derek Lively, they got D'Angelo Russell. Yes, he's not what he was a few years ago and he's up and down, but getting him for cheap, to basically fill in for Kyrie Irving, who is an X factor. We don't know, how much he'll play this season, if he'll play this season. But there's that X factor of Kyrie. I just think that this team is so deep and so big and so long and really talented, even without Kyrie Irving, that I definitely see them as a over 500 team, given health. When we're going through these predictions, we're just assuming health for all these teams, except for the injuries that we know about, like Kyrie Irving. But as is, I think it's an over 40 win team for sure. That's where I got him.
Yeah, and I just think that you look at it and like Cooper Flag, I think he's going to be awesome. Obviously, it takes time for rookies to come into this league. But the one thing about it is, yes, AD has injury concerns. Kyrie starts to hurt this year, so you know that there's injury concerns there of when he can come back. But do you have something that can help you manufacture wins? I think that they do with their defense. They can just grind out these games, and then is Anthony Davis healthy enough? Is Cooper Flag good enough to help you get over the hump in some of these grimy games? I think that they are. I think that they will be, and I think that they're going to get at least 41 wins. The over on this is not crazy for Dallas. Now we go to the Denver Nuggets, who I think have had the best offseason in the West. Whenever you look at, what they've been able to do, like they're doing more with less. Coming into this, I was like, hey, Denver took the Thunder to the seventh game of that series, and that made the Thunder better. And that allowed the Thunder to internally improve. But Denver took them to 7 games while being hurt, banged up, etc. So could they just hit a few marginal moves? They did more than that. They hit a grand slam this offseason. I think that the Cam Johnson trade is a massive win for them. And I think that the people who are casting it aside is like, well, he's the same as Michael Porter Jr. They're completely wrong, in my opinion. And I could be proven wrong on that. But just right now, I think that you take what Cam Johnson is, what Cam Johnson was whenever he played for a winner in Phoenix, and what he will be playing alongside Nikola Jokic, and you get a fantastic player who is also cheaper and allows you to bring in the likes of Bruce Brown, allows you to bring in the likes of Tim Hardaway Jr., and allows you to bring in Jonas Valanciunas. Now, those 3 guys all have varying question marks. Like for Bruce Brown, we haven't seen him be at that level of a true contending helper since the title in Denver. But what do we talk about with role players all the time? We talk about the comfortability of role players being of the utmost importance. Bruce Brown is never more comfortable than in the Mile High City and in Ball Arena and next to Nikola Jokic. So I think that that's going to raise his level of play. Yes, Jonas Valanciunas has a lot of question marks in the postseason, but when it comes to getting you wins in the regular season, there's no question mark that he's a very valuable big, and he doesn't need to be some revolutionary center for Denver. He needs to be better than DeAndre Jordan. He's got to be better than DeAndre Jordan. That's a very low bar to clear in this year of our Lord 2025 behind Nikola Jokic, who once you get to the playoffs, Jokic is playing 45 minutes a game anyway. So the bridging of the regular season and postseason is made easier for Denver by just having a competent backup big man for really the first time in Jokic's career since he's become what he's became in this league. And then you look at Tim Hardaway Jr., who you saw what he did for Detroit last year, a valuable piece, not something that makes or breaks your season, but he can certainly elevate Denver's supporting cast, which last year you got to a point where the whole playoff series, we're talking about how they have 5.5 guys. Now they have more bodies with a team that's at the top, talented enough, with the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, with Jamal Murray, and with Aaron Gordon, who was a absolute pest for Oklahoma City entering that game 7 whenever he had the injury. But for 1 through 6, he was incredible against OKC. So I think that Denver is a legitimately good team, a legitimate contender. And right now, FanDuel has their over-under at 53.5. I have been skeptical of Denver in the regular season just because I don't know how much that they really care or like want to prove anything in the regular season. But Ryan Blackburn of Locked On Nuggets believes that they're going to go for it. They're going to go for it all in the regular season. And I do think that there's an element of, a new coach. And I know that he coached the end of last season at the literal end, David Adelman, and he was very impressive as a coach in those last couple of games in the 2 playoff series that he coached. And I think that can rejuvenate a team as well and kind of put more focus on the regular season. So I'm going to go over 53.5 wins for Denver.
I chuckled because I swear to you, I can send you my notes, Rylan. I had them at 54 wins, not knowing the over-under.
Wow, you're on it. You should be a line maker in Vegas.
Seriously, this is crazy. Look, I think you nailed it. Regardless of what anybody thinks about Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson, let's just say that's a wash. Their biggest issue was depth, and they definitely got deeper. They lose Russell Westbrook, probably. He hasn't signed anywhere yet. If he doesn't come back, but they added, as you said, Brown, Hardaway Jr., and Valanciunas. I think the depth was the biggest issue that they faced, and they cleaned it up. Like you said, those players have some issues, but their starting 5 was already one of the best in the NBA. Like, regardless, I know people say that they don't have any other all-stars besides Nikola Jokic, but Jamal Murray any given night can play like an all-star. In the playoffs, he can play like an all-star, certainly. Aaron Gordon can play like that kind of player. And whether it was Michael Porter Jr. or now Cam Johnson any given night, Christian Brown, like, these are good players. That starting 5 is really good. The issue was the bench. So cleaning that up, giving them some depth, I think makes this team – I just wanted to bump them up a handful of wins. They had 50 last year. And so I bumped them up to 54. That felt like a right number. I had the number 2 in the West, just barely edging out the Rockets and the Clippers.
Okay, I'm glad that we're still hitting here with you being close to the line. Give me your pick for Golden State. I want to see how close you get to the FanDuel over-under. How many wins did you have the Golden State Warriors?
I had them at 50. They had 48 last year, and I know they haven't done anything, but they were a lot better team once they added Jimmy Butler. So kind of like looking at that team over a full 82-game season with Butler, I bumped them up a couple wins and had them at 50. What was their over-under?
Over-under is 45.5 games at FanDuel. But I do like your point about having Jimmy, having Steph over the course of a full season. I'm going to take the slight over on Golden State, but obviously it's really tough now. Now we're getting tough on the terms of over-unders when it comes to somebody's got to lose these games when you're playing West teams. I'm going to take a slight over on Golden State. Nothing crazy, but I think that they do enough in this regular season to be that swing team. And we see it every year since the play-in's been invented in the West, where the difference of you being a 6th seed and you being in the tournament is half a game. And I think that Golden State will be in that range. I would lean play-in game for Golden State, but it's right there where I wouldn't besmirch anyone who has them in the top 6. But I have Golden State there a little bit over the 45.5 win total. And now we get to, I don't think that they're a legit contender, though, to actually win the title. I think that they have to have everything go right for them to win the West in the postseason. But we get back to a contender with the Houston Rockets, who over-under is set at 55.5 games in this FanDuel odds. Brandon, over or under 55.5?
Under. I have them at 53. I have them at 3rd in the West. They won 52 last year, and I know they improved because they added KD. They swapped out basically Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green for Dorian Finney-Smith and KD. So absolutely upgraded. I think Amin Thompson is a star in the making. If he's not already, he should improve. A lot of the young players should improve. But I just can't see that big of a bump from what they were last year. So I just have them improving a little bit. So I have them a little bit under.
Yeah, I think that the win totals for Houston and Denver should be swapped. I have them at under as well, but not by some dramatic mark. I think that the 53 wins is very reasonable for Houston, and 55 wins is very reasonable for Denver. And it goes 1, 2, 3, OKC, Denver, Houston. Because with Houston, I do think that they're going to be in a position to win a lot of games and be a top 3 seed, even while resting KD enough to get him to the finish line healthy. But in the meantime, when you burst out of the gate, I do think that there's going to be some growing pains with this team. Now, I believe that Ime is one of the best coaches in basketball. I believe that they have a very talented roster. But when it comes to finding your rhythm in your rotation and finding out how these parts move together, I think that they might stumble just a touch in October and in November before really hitting their stride, hitting into the All-Star break, and after the All-Star break to where it elevates their win total at that time. But early on, you look at this front court, and they've signed the bajillion centers and one, all talented guys, all capable guys, but you've got to find the minutes for them and find the combinations of which Şengün works with Adams. We know that, but how does he work with Clint Capella? How does he work at the five himself? Because with Dorian Finney-Smith, like size-wise, he can play, the three, but I think that he's more so comfortable functionally at the four, and then that takes away your ability to play someone in the front court. Obviously, Kevin Durant's a four as well, so it's like, how much do you want to slide Dorian to the three, and how much can he play the three right now on top of what you already have on this roster? I think they have a lot to figure out early on, which can kind of depreciate their win total, but still being a threat, still being a contender, and I think that they have a legitimate case right here to be the top three in the West, where it's like, there's not even a debate. It's just OKC, Denver, Houston, and then you figure the rest out later. That's kind of how much I value Houston, while saying that their win total might only increase by a win or two in the actual regular season.
Yeah, completely agreed. That's exactly how I feel about the Rockets. I think you make a great point as far as it's going to take them a little time to gel. And you kind of got to bake in KD taking some games off, like resting, making sure he's healthy for the playoffs. That's going to be their goal, is being healthy for the playoffs and making sure KD is, because they put a lot of eggs into that basket, and for good reason. They needed a go-to scorer. That was what they were missing. Jalen Green was so up and down, so you replace him with one of the great scorers of all time, but it will take some time. So 53 just felt right for the Rockets. I feel pretty good about it going OKC 1, Denver 2, Rockets 3, but I have 2, 3, and 4 very, very close. I basically have one game separating 2, 3, and 4 between all of those.
Coming up, have I changed my tune on the LA Clippers after last week's pod? We'll get to them and the rest of the West. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm Rylan Stiles. That's Brandon Rahbar. Go check out Locked On Clippers, because they made the signing today of Chris Paul as they continue to bring in a roster full of 2016, 2015 all-star guys, but we're living in 2025, 2026. Their over-under from FanDuel is 49.5 games. A year ago, the Clippers won exactly 50 games. I believe in the Clippers more than I did a week ago. I believe in them as a playoff team. If you swore to me that this team got to the end healthy, I believe that they can make noise in the playoffs and get to a West Finals. And if every little detail broke their way, maybe the finals. But the regular season, Brandon, where are you at?
Yeah, so I have them at 52 wins. I have the Nuggets at 54, Rockets at 53, and Clippers at 52. Look, this Clippers team won 50 games last year, and they added Bradley Beal. And look, I know that Bradley Beal at like $50 million, that's not a good value. That's going to hurt your team. Bradley Beal at $5 million, that's a completely different tune. Chris Paul, yeah, he's 40 or whatever. The dude can still play. Look at the on-off numbers with the Spurs.
Played all 82 last year.
Yes. Yeah, so adding Beal, adding Chris Paul. I know Brook Lopez is 40 or whatever, but the guy can still play. They have depth. And look, Kawhi missed a lot of games last year. At this moment in time, he's healthy. So based on, he'll probably miss in time. We know he will. He'll miss back-to-backs and all those things. But going off what we know right now, I think the Clippers look like the fourth best team in the West. They have talent. Yes, it's old. I tweeted out that, Alex Caruso on the Thunder is considered the old man, but like on this Clippers team, they'd be like rookie hazing him. He'd be like the young pup on this team. They're older for sure. They've had injury history for sure. But right now, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of depth, and they feel like the 4 seed to me.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over as well. I have changed my tune on the Clippers. I do think that they're safely in the top 6 in terms of seeding. It can get a little bit wonky because, like, again, what are you going to do with Kawhi for the regular season? But I do think that this team really complements each other very well. You look at the backcourt, and I think that there's nobody who's going to see his public perception do a 180 quite like Bradley Beal this year, because you mentioned his salary. Him on that number is still a very good player, even if you just got the exact player that he was a year ago, without any sort of improvement, without any sort of just bump from getting into a better environment. Because look, I mean, the Phoenix stuff, we don't have to continue to bag on Phoenix, but man, what a horrible, horrible system that he played in alongside Booker and Durant, and it was just poorly thrown together. The Tyus Jones signing didn't work out the exact way that I had hoped, because I was very high on it. I was very high on those Suns, and they just did not quite get it done. But He's in a better spot when it comes to opening the game up for him, playing that Norman Powell role alongside these guys. I think that the John Collins addition is under the radar. I think that the Brooks Lopez addition under the radar, playing behind Zoo and having a guy who can come in for Zoo. And Zoo is a great player. Like, Zoo is one of the best centers in the NBA, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. Nationally, when it comes to just fans, I think that like some Thunder fans don't know how good he is. As like whenever he's going off on OKC or protecting their minutes against OKC, like you just think that he's some career night for him. No, he's just an awesome player, and he's just an awesome defender. So I think that him being backed up by Brook Lopez is big. John Collins reinforcing that front court, especially on the nights where Kawhi's not there to play the 4, that's big. And then Chris Dunn protecting these guards defensively will also be huge, because if you can throw a lineup out there with Chris Dunn and Kawhi and Zoo, you've got a really good defense just with those 3 guys alone, if you have any sort of competitive fire from the other guys on the court. So I do think that they're going to be a good defense. I think they're going to be a good team. And I think that they're going to hit the over on this win total. So continuing on now, we have the Los Angeles Lakers, who also made a move this weekend, bring in Marcus Smart. Over under. Now remember, the Lakers are always boosted up a little bit on Vegas because you got to protect yourself if you're the house, because everybody and their mothers bets against or for the Lakers. Over under 47.5 games for the Los Angeles Lakers, who won 50 a year ago. Where are you at, Brandon?
All right. So I kind of took the easy way out here. I got them at 50. I did not know what to do with the Lakers. I have them above. Look, they still have Luka and they still have LeBron. I know LeBron's age. I believe this whole Luka, he's getting into better shape. I think LeBron, he's got a year or 2 left. It looks like probably a couple years left. Who knows? He may have 10 years left. DeAndre Ayton, again, much like Bradley Beal at the number he was at, that was not a good value. But DeAndre Ayton at this number is a really good value, especially when you were starting Jackson Hayes. It's a very big upgrade. You still have Austin Reeves. You do lose your best perimeter defender and Dorian Finney-Smith, your best wing defender. I think there will be some growing pains. I think there will be some issues. They're just hard to figure because their record last year, there's kind of like they had Anthony Davis. You switch to Luka. You look at the record before and after. Now they add Ayton. They lose Dorian Finney-Smith. I just kind of took the easy way out and said they won 50 last year. Let's give them 50 again.
I'm also taking the over on the Lakers because I like being desperate if you're LA. I like the fact that you have DeAndre Ayton, who clearly is not putting it all together, clearly has some motor concerns and some work ethic concerns that Portland is glad to tell you about after the fact. But this is it, buddy. Like, this is your last chance. If it doesn't work out for the Lakers and it doesn't work out next to Luka, it's over for you. Like, you're just done. And I think that desperation is going to lead to the best year that you've seen from DeAndre Ayton or close to it. And Luka just maximizes everything that Ayton is good at and all of his strengths. Marcus Smart is a guy who just took a buyout in Washington, and people are clowning him right now, saying that he's washed. But you look at what he did in Washington on a very low volume, and the threes that he hit and the catch and shoot rate that he had, playing alongside Luka Doncic. And we know in OKC that Luka Doncic, with his magical passes and his volume and gravity, can really make some so-so shooters become otherworldly. Shout out PJ Washington. Shout out Derek Jones Jr. Like, I think that Marcus Smart will have a career season from the 3-point line. I think that DeAndre Ayton will have a career season overall. And I think that the Lakers will have over 47.5 wins. In terms of their viability in the postseason, I think that they're a very matchup dependent team. They've got to get the right looks in their bracket. That's not really up to their control in a lot of ways, but I do think for the regular season, they're going to hit the over on their win total. Now,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm just agreeing with you. Go ahead.
Oh, I love whenever you agree. Let's go to the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis Grizzlies are set at 40.5. Yikes. Memphis a year ago won 48 games. They changed their coach. They traded Desmond Bane. They still have Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, I think that you have to take the over. It's just inviting you to take it. But if I was a true bettor and we weren't just doing this for fun on a podcast, I would stay away from this line because it can get messy real fast. You look at how they're starting hurt with Jaren Jackson Jr. They're starting hurt with Zach Edey, and Ja Morant is no picture of an 82-game player, right? Like, there's always something going on with Ja Morant. So it can quickly snowball on Memphis as we're talking about this Western Conference where there's so many teams that are capable of winning every single night. And that's going to be the toughest, roughest conference in the league. And if you start out in October, November on the wrong foot, you're playing catch up the rest of the way. And it really, without Desmond Bane and without really replacing him in a functional way, to me, it can really go south in a hurry. But 40 wins seems awfully low. 40 wins is like Kings last year. Bad. Like Kings were 40 wins. Dallas was 39. I'm going to take a very slight over.
I am taking a very slight under. I ended at 38.
Wow.
This was one of the hardest ones for me because I do think that, when John Moran is healthy, the Grizzlies are pretty good and they still have Jaren Jackson Jr. I just think the Desmond Bane loss is pretty big. Like their best 3-point threat, their best spacer, John Morant will operate better with a spacer like Desmond Bane next to him. So we haven't really seen Jaw operate without Bane there. And with just Jackson, Zach Edey, there were some highs, there were some lows in his rookie year. I just don't know. Ultimately, I felt like this with the West improving and these teams getting better and better. You just have to pick some teams to have a worse record and to be, hovering around or right below 500. So I just picked the Grizzlies. It was tough. One of the toughest ones I picked, but I picked them at 38 wins. And again, kind of baking in, Ja hasn't been, like you said, a picture of 82 games, although I'm trying to look at it as a healthy team. If I had to choose a team to fall a little bit, I think Memphis without Bane is one of those teams.
So I like it. And I think that this is where I take my shot on just figuring out a team who is going to slightly underperform. And that's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are set at 49.5 on the over-under. Last year, they won exactly 49 games. And perhaps I'm overvaluing Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. I'll admit that on the front end that I'm in love with Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. And I think that he's an awesome player and he really helped them a year ago. And I look at this roster now. I mean, they ran it back sans Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. Like they're still doing the Mike Conley thing. They're betting a lot on Terrence Shannon Jr. being like, good. And I think that there's a chance here for Minnesota to take a step backward in the regular season because you're trying to get Terrence Shannon Jr. up to speed. You're trying to figure out what do you have in Rob Dillingham. You're trying to get Jalen Clark in there, who's an excellent defender, but he needs to figure out where he's at offensively. And you're trying to work through all these different things that it could cost you early in the season, pre-trade deadline, pre-All-Star break. It could cost you wins. That lowers your win total. But in the end, it makes you a better team for the parts you have. I just don't think that they can hit the exact win total without Na. And I think that losing Na is at least worth losing a couple wins whenever you didn't really do anything to replace him.
Yep. I have the Wolves at 48 wins. I had them losing one more game than they lost last year, or winning one less game than they did last year. For the same reason. Maybe we're both too high on Na, but he's a two-way player. And I just value two-way players that much. And he was a guy that was playing a lot of minutes every night. And like you said, Terrence Shannon Jr., Dillingham certainly can take that role, but they're not, to me, right now, two-way players. They're very good offensive players, but Na brought it defensively, and any given night, he could get hot from three. So I value him as a two-way player and as a role player that's been a part of this team, a part of this system. And so, again, working out the kinks, I think that it's pretty much the same team, but I just think that there are a couple wins weaker, I guess I would say, than they were. I was trying to think of a nice way to say that, but yeah, I think they won't be quite as good. But come playoffs, they're still not a team you necessarily want to face because of Ant and Gobert and Randall.
Another team, we're getting to the unders here. Another team that I'm having the under on is the New Orleans Pelicans, whose over-under is set at 30.5, and I feel so bad for Jake Madison and all the Pelicans fans. Lockdown Pelicans, go listen to them because I can't figure out what in the world they did this offseason. They won 21 games a year ago. 21! And they traded their pick and Milwaukee's, the best of their pick, Milwaukee's pick, in a loaded draft class in which you look at this roster. So if I'm looking at this, how are you going to get the over? You've got to make up 10 wins with what you've done. And DeJounte Murray, hurt. Jordan Poole, he didn't help Washington win games, and he had a pretty good season. Like Jordan Poole, I think one of the better seasons you can have in that environment and with his skill set, and he didn't help him win a lick. Zion Williamson, can't count on him. Trey Murphy and Herb Jones have had injury concerns. I think that those are two really good players, but I'm not inspired by Derek Queen, who just had a torn ligament in his wrist as well and had surgery. I'm not inspired by year one Jeremiah Fears. I love Jeremiah Fears, but that is the hardest position possible. That point guard position as a young guy to assimilate to and be ready to play and be ready to win from the word go, especially with the injuries that has taken on to New Orleans before the season's even began. I don't like this team. I don't think that they can win in the West, and I've got to go under on 30.5 wins, which is just, again, a display of how poor that this team was ran this offseason.
Yeah, I go back to that trade, giving up your 2026 first round pick. Like, how do you do that with this team? I have them at 24 wins, so I have them at the under as well. If they were in the East, sure. If you believe in Derek Queen that much, I still don't agree with it. But you can talk yourself into making the playoffs, certainly, especially in a year where you see, Tatum's going to be out and Halliburton's going to be out. Can you sneak into the playoffs in the East? Sure. But this is the West. How are you going to get into the playoffs? How are you going to justify giving up what is very likely a lottery pick, a high lottery pick in the 2026 draft? I just don't get it. It seems like there would be much easier ways. If you believe in Derek Queen that much, you can get him a different way, right? Like, you don't have to give up an unprotected first round pick. Yeah, I got him at 24 wins. It's hard for me to see how they make the playoffs. I don't see how it happening.
Yeah, it's brutal. And I mean, that's the thing. Even if they make the play-in tournament, the Mavericks just made it and they got the number 1 overall pick. Like, the lottery odds are so that, like, Atlanta, they didn't tank to get Risha Shea. They got lucky in the lottery. Like, the lottery odds are so crazy that, like, you knew you weren't going to be a top 6 team. You knew that you were going to have a chance at a great pick, and you gave away the best option of your pick and Milwaukee's pick, who, like, Milwaukee, I think that they're going to be good. I think they're going to be better than people think, but they're a Giannis injury away from giving you a great pick in the 2026 NBA draft, which is a loaded draft class. The Phoenix Suns over-under set at 31.5. I think that Phoenix, for the hand that they were dealt, for the cards that they had this offseason, executed an offseason very well for what they had to work with. But it's the West, and it's tough to win. And 31.5 wins after you won 39 a year ago with, the star power that you had in your team that wasn't very functional. You won 36 a year ago, but that wasn't very functional. There's an element of being more functional while also, like, just not having as much star power as, like, the KD, Beal, Booker combo. I'm going to give this a slight over on 31.5, but they come in under their win total of 36. Like, they're going to thread that line of, like, hey, they're a more functional team. They're just not a very good team.
Yeah, I agree that they did about as well as they could given the circumstances, but I still have them coming in under their win total last year and underneath the over.
You got them under 30?
I got them at 24, Rylan.
Oh my goodness. You're probably right. I'm probably way overvaluing the Suns.
The reason being, like, as much as everybody clowned, like, Beal saying, like, when the big three play together, meaning him, KD, and Booker, they had a great record. They were much better when KD played and when Beal played and when Booker played. 2 of those guys are gone. I think that, again, they had a solid offseason given the circumstances. I just don't see how you win 36 games when you did have KD and Beal, how you're going to even approach that in the West this next season. So I have them at 24. Somebody's got to be bad.
You've sold
Somebody's
me
got to be
under.
bad.
You sold me under on the Suns. Under on the Suns because you've sold me, and the Portland Trailblazers 33.5 games. I'm going over on Portland winning 33.5 games. I think that this is the team. I think that this is the team who a year ago won 36 games while not really even finding their stride until January 1. Like, I think that this is a team that from the word go plays a very desperate style. I think that they're going to make the knockout round of the NBA Cup in their NBA Cup bracket. I think that they're going to be a very spunky team who you cannot sleep on, who teams are going to underestimate, and it's going to give them a few wins. And they're going to be a team that has a lot of young talent who's not ready to make a big splash, but ready to make a better improvement and go over 33.5 wins on this win total.
Co-signed. I'm really high on them. I have them at number 10 in the West. I have them making the play-in. I have them at 41 wins, a 500 team. They just feel like that up-and-coming team. They play hard. Like, their play style reminds me of the Thunder a few years ago during the rebuild years. They have some young talent. I really like this Blazers team. I got them at 41.
Yeah, and it's reminds me a lot of like the season that the Thunder had. Obviously, not a 1-to-1 because the Thunder did have a lot of talent on that season in the play-in year, but they weren't a team that, like on paper in July, should have made the play-in tournament. They just weren't. And what happened was they took the regular season more seriously than anybody. You could not take a night off, and whenever you did, they beat you. And at the end, random things happen in the sense of like Dallas just completely bowed out of the race for the play-in, and it kind of gifted OKC that opportunity to go to the play-in and win against New Orleans because Dallas realized, this isn't working. We're not good enough. Even if we make the play-in tournament, who cares? Let's just bow out of it, get our protected pick from New York, and move on with our lives, and ended up parlaying them into that finals run. But when you look at it, I think that Portland can be the beneficiary of a team in the end who's better on paper, but for external reasons and internal reasons, they kind of decide, you know what, it's not really worth it to us. Whereas with Portland, it would be worth it for them to continue from October through April, keep pushing the pedal to the metal, trying to get to the play-in. And maybe they come up just short, but I think that they're going to be a good team. And it leads us into the Sacramento Kings, 35.5. I don't like this Kings roster. I really don't. I don't like this Kings roster. I don't think that they're good. I don't think that they can make noise. I don't think that they're capable of even winning a play-in game. But the ability of Sabonis to just raise the tides for a team, an elevated team in the regular season, cannot be kind of undersold. Where are you at with the Sacramento Kings? 35.5.
35.5 feels really low, and I still have them under. Again, I think this is a playoff team in the East, probably, at least the play-in team for sure in the East. It's just the West. Some of these teams are going to have to be under 500. And I just have the Kings after, I just don't see a path to them being, better than they were last year. And they won 40 games last year. So, with teams underneath them improving, the teams above them improving, teams all around them improving, I just have them at 33.
I'm going to have to go under as well and take the under on the Kings because someone's got to lose and someone's got to win. And I think that the winner is the San Antonio Spurs, over 43.5. Give me the over on the Spurs 43.5 because I love De'Aaron Fox. I love Devin Vassell. I love Harrison Barnes. I love Keldon Johnson. Oh, yeah, they have a guy named Victor Wembanyama. Oh, yeah, they have a guy named Dylan Harper. Oh, yeah, they have a guy named Stephen Castle. And Carter Bryant is an all-juice team member, and I love all-juice team guys, and he is the quintessential junkyard all-juice team guy. Give me Carter Bryant. Give me the Spurs. Give me the over, and the Kings go by the wayside.
I have them over as well. I have them at 45 wins. For all the reasons you said, it feels like a Wemby year 3 leap is going to come. They have a lot of young talent, and you've added De'Aaron Fox. It just feels like they're going to be, certainly to me, a play-in team. We'll see if they can, fight their way to a playoff spot, but I think they'll be in that 7 to 10 range come into the season.
All right, Brandon, you've nailed some of these lines. You've nailed more than you've missed. So I'm going to ask you, predict the line on the Utah Jazz.
I don't know what the line is, but I have them winning. I have them winning. They won 17 games last year. They are clearly the one team in the West that is not going to be trying to even sniff the playoffs. They have sold away anybody, that's a veteran that has a pulse, besides, for some reason, Lauri Markkanen, they're going to hang on to for dear life. They said they're not going to tank, but what they meant was they're not going to tank.
They're organically bad.
Because they don't have to, because they got rid of everybody. I got them at one less win than last year. I had them at 16 wins.
The over-under for the Utah Jazz is 18.5.
Wow.
18.5 is what Vegas thinks of Utah. And I'm going under. I'm going under because maybe I'm just silly. Maybe I'm just a silly goose. I do think that the Western Conference is legitimately going to be a battle. And I think that you saw a year ago, like what could have, again, Denver had the injury stuff, but if Denver was healthy, which is a big if, but if they were healthy and they did have to play the Thunder until the Western Conference Finals, like what could they have done? I think that they saw firsthand of like, okay, we need to put some importance on the regular season and not lose 2 games to Washington, because if we can just avoid OKC for a long time, then we have to play, good Houston team and a good team, whatever. But you don't got to play the juggernaut until the very end when you can get over that hump at that time instead of having your season end in the second round. I think that you did see in this playoffs like how much that matchups matter and how many teams how many teams were looking at this playoff bracket. It's like, well, if we didn't have to play so and so, would have gone further. And I think that it's going to give them a new sense of, all right, let's stop playing with our food here. Who knows what happens in like the games against good teams? You gotta get the gimme games. You gotta get the games in Utah. And I know that it sucks. I know they don't want to be there. I know that they don't want to be there, but you gotta win them. And I think that the added pressure of the West and how tightly compacted it will lead to a lot of losses for Utah, like it did a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like, because you're looking at teams like the Pelicans. They're going to try to win. They have zero incentive at the end of the season to tank now because they don't have their pick. You got the Suns. They're going to these teams are going to try to make the play in. I just don't see a path in the West where they pick up very many wins. They'll pick up some wins against the East teams, the bottom of the East. They'll pick up some wins.
Oh, you've got yourself muted. You jangled around your microphone being so passionate about the Utah Jazz that you've unplugged yourself. It's Brandon Unplugged, like an MTV special here. They just hate the Utah Jazz so much that they want to censor you from talking about Utah. He's still trying to get it to work, folks. What is he doing? He's digging around his computer. He can't find the right chords. He's unplugging and replugging. And I think that this is just the end, folks. It's the end for all of us. It's the end for the world. It's the end for the Utah Jazz. Everything's over all at once. Brandon, it's been great knowing you, but this is over. And you can turn out the lights. The party's over. The Utah Jazz suck. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.